So, interestingly enough, I was just looking into a situation that occurred not too long ago in India, and it was a case of a whole species of vultures that were pretty much almost wiped out. And vultures, a lot of people have kind of a negative thought on vultures, but actually they're a really, really important part of our ecosystem, and they help to get rid of the pathogens and the awful bacteria that happens when there's festering bodies and dead animals and things like that. So they're the world, the kind of the earth cleaners, so to speak. And a whole species of these were being wiped out in India, and no one could figure out why. And eventually, somebody did discover why, and it turned out that the vultures were eating the cows, the dead cows, because obviously in India there was a lot of dead cows because people don't eat cows in India that are Hindus. Hindus don't eat cows because they're considered sacred. So these dead cows were being consumed by the vultures, which has always happened for a long, long time. But when they did the autopsies on the vultures, they couldn't figure out, they could see this white pasty stuff across the organs, particularly the livers and the kidneys. And it turns out that the cows were being given diclofenac, which is a medication, a modern medication that it was to help the cows' joints and things like that, to help with mobility and things like that. So the cows were being given diclofenac by the farmers, and then these cows who'd had the diclofenac was then being consumed by the vultures. And obviously this caused liver and kidney failures in the vultures, and this is what particularly wiped out nearly all of this species of vulture. It turns out that they discovered before the vultures literally were completely wiped out. They discovered this, and then there was a ban put in place for the cows no longer to be allowed to be given diclofenac by the farmers. So the good news is that the vultures have now full force come back, and they have replenished their species again, which is really good news. But it just shows you, doesn't it, that our medications, the long-term effects of medications is no longer just to be looked at as a long-term effect on us humans or the people that consume them. These medications go on to affect so many things, and the vultures are just a really good example of that. But if you think about, the water system, how much medication is put down the toilets, how much is destroyed and then given off in wastewater, when people are returning medications, how many medications are flushed down the toilets by consumers, by individuals. When you think about how much is going back into our system, which then is being consumed by, the animals and, the fish and things like that, which are then being consumed by other animals, which then are being consumed by humans or even directly consuming the fish. It just makes you think, doesn't it, that, this medication that these pharmaceutical companies are creating by the mass load, not only enough to, to be given out to people, but there's an excess of it. And then the people that don't need the medications anymore, there's an excess there of waste. And if you think about how much waste and how much medication there is, that is it's just colossal amounts. And that's going back into our food table, it's going back into our soils, our waters, our animals. It's shockingly worrying, and because all of these medications are eventually, it's going to be so much of it that it's inevitable that we are going to be affected by it. Even those that are vegetarians eventually, although it might not get to vegetarians as quick because they're not eating the animals, it's going to come back in the soils. It's going to come back in other ways, in the water that irrigates the lands and things like that. So, you know, it's shocking. So yeah, think about whether you really do need to buy all those medications, because there's supply and demand, and the more that we demand it, the more they'll supply it in excess. And I just think that, we're so quick to turn to medication. And, myself, I'm on a holistic journey because I have autoimmune disease, and I'm desperately really trying to find alternative paths rather than going down full medication. Don't get me wrong, I will have pain relief at times, but I am trying not to consume, because I know that the answers are out there, in nature, and that's what I'm looking to try to do. So yeah, it's just something to think about. Have a lovely day or evening wherever you are, and it's been a long time since I've jumped on here, but I'll be back soon.